Before I start cutting away at this cowl shoulder here, I just wanted to give a quick update on what's going to happen. So as I previously mentioned, I'm going to have to take this whole cowl shoulder out of the car and fit in a new piece from AMD, primarily to take care of that kick panel area down below here that's all rotted out. The other issue that I have is the new panel from AMD is not 100% correct for the AC car. As you can see here, this hole here is more of a rectangular shape, and then the hole in front of the car is extremely large, whereas the new piece from AMD, although they claim it's for AC cars, only has a hole cut here for the blower motor. And then if we look on the other side here, you can see here that the hole is a completely different shape in terms of the factory equipment. So we're going to go ahead and get this entire shoulder cut out of here. Then I'll lay them side by side and we'll make one piece that is correct. This piece, interestingly enough, it looks like there is a separate piece that's actually spot welded in here that I suppose I could cut out and then put into the new piece. So I'll take a look at that and see how feasible that is to do once I get the entire panel off. So what we'll do is we'll start by taking this side cover off. You can see that there are some spot welds in here, and so we'll drill out all of the spot welds and pull this cover off of here. I also have these from AMD to replace when I get this cut out of here. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it out with spot welds. It's going to take me a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to get it all out in one piece. Whereas, I probably could just take my plasma cutter and start cutting it out. That would actually be the fastest. But I want to make sure that I put all of the new pieces together exactly the way that they need, so I'd like to use the original pieces as my point of reference. This is the right-hand cowl panel. Part number is 376-3466-R, and it should be noted that AMD is selling this or offering this as a replacement panel for cars with AC. But I thought it might be helpful to show some of the significant differences between the AMD panel and the original panel that was used on AC equipped cars. Interestingly enough, as I'd mentioned, they mention in the sales brochure that this is a panel for cars with AC. But we can see immediately here that the vent hole on the replacement panel is significantly different than the vent hole or the ductwork hole on the original panel. So that's definitely different. And so I suspect that this panel from AMD is actually for cars without AC. The car without AC would have had a kick panel with a vent actuator in it, and you would pull a cable that would then open and close the vent, allowing outside air into the car. Whereas the original panel would have had ductwork going up to the air conditioning equipment that would reside inside of this panel behind the right-hand inner fender. The other notable difference, very significant difference, is that the AMD panel, the replacement panel here, has your traditional hole for blower motor, whereas the factory original panel has a much larger area, again, for the air conditioning equipment. And you can see how it's bolted in here if you have the original part. So I've got quite a bit of work that I'm going to have to do now to fabricate this replacement panel to fit into my AC original car. Another notable difference is if you look here in this depression, which is likely for the cable pull in the kick panel once it's installed, the brackets and the retaining clips that hold that cable in place behind the kick panel. This depression gives those mechanisms a place to reside. And you can see that if you look at the original piece, that depression is a little bit taller or longer. I don't think in my case, because I am working with an AC original car, that's going to be a problem. And in fact, I don't think that this larger depression on a factory non-AC car would be a problem. The kick panels for the AC cars don't have the vent pulls and the knobs, so there's really no reason to have the depression. So I don't think that's going to be a big problem, but I did want to note the significant differences between these two panels for those of you that might have factory equipped air conditioning in your car. If you purchase this, don't expect to be able to use your factory air conditioning components. You know, one thing that I did consider is actually going with this panel completely without doing any modifications to it, and then going with something like vintage air, which would be aftermarket air conditioning. This panel in that instance would work perfectly. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to basically take this piece that I've removed from the car, and I am going to splice it in with this particular piece. Once all of that splicing is done, the fabrication work is done, and the welding is done, I'll sandblast the panel, and hopefully it will look exactly like the original, and then I'll shoot it with epoxy primer and get it installed. So I've been working on this 67 Chevelle right-hand cowl panel. This is the panel that makes up the interior kick panel and then also the cowl shoulder of the car. Even though this new piece from AMD was advertised as being for an AC car, it is not. It does not have the right holes and the right stamping in it for an AC car. So I've tried to save the important pieces from the original, although it was pretty much rotted out. I was able to save this piece here, which is the ductwork hole. And then you can see here where this is painted turquoise, I did have to put a patch in there because that piece was so rotted out that when I actually cut this blank out to fit into this, this part of that panel was rotted out. So I had to actually patch the patch that I'm putting in. So anyway, I've got it sitting in here and I've got it positioned in here the way that I want it. And the next thing to do will be to get my air saw out, and I'll run that saw down the edge of the panel and cut myself a slit, and then I will butt weld this new piece in. The reason that you see this material down in this area versus just coming across here as a patch is that the original stamping on the AMD panel has the vent stamped in it. So you can see here, this is where the vent stamped into the original panel here from AMD. And so I needed to make sure that that gets covered up. So that's why I have the extra material in this section below the hole. So for anybody else that may be trying to do this type of fabrication, you'll also notice that I've cut with my plasma cutter. It's kind of sloppy, but I used the plasma cutter to cut a little bit extra away from the AMD piece so that the patch could sit flush. If you notice here, there's a lip on the piece that I want to weld in there, and so when I was setting that on top of the patch panel or the AMD panel, it wasn't sitting flush. And so again, I just cut a little bit extra so that I could get it to set flush. And now I should be able to butt weld this in, and then I'll metal finish all of the welds on both sides, and it should be ready then to be, I'm going to go ahead and sandblast it, and seam seal it probably, and then epoxy it before we do the final install into the car. So quite a bit of work involved in this, but I want to keep this car factory original. So it's just going to take a little bit of extra time here doing the fabrication work.